Let's swing to Toronto. Toronto gets RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly and a 2024 second round pick.
The 31st pick in the 2024 draft.
Yeah.
Is that how we do it? This is how, when you want to talk about the value of the trade, you talk about it as the 31st pick, and when you want to go on the other side of it, it's a second round pick.
Is the 31st pick a fake first? Can we just start calling that a fake first?
When is it no longer a fake first?
I don't know, 40 or something.
Yeah.
Like, that's really the question.
I mean, I don't know. You could probably say you'd rather have the 31st pick than the 30th, just from a flexibility standpoint. But yeah,
unless that dude turns into a player, and then you're in trouble because they become a free agent much sooner.
That's a problem. All right, let's talk about these guys. Toronto, they get a couple of good young players. They bring RJ Barrett home, and I actually think RJ is, he's had an interesting season, but not a bad one.
Favorite player.
He's been pretty good this year.
The pendulum on him is wild. Like I feel like I've sort of been largely in the middle on it, and I think that when people were huge into him, they were too, like, he's getting talked about like the worst contract in the league, and he's like, okay, he's making like starter wing money, and like, is he a starting NBA wing on a playoff level team? Maybe not the way he's played this year, but I think that it's not a huge gap between where he is and that spot. So I think that's fine. And then quickly getting, who's been, from an impact standpoint, has been a monster his entire career. Like, the Knicks win possessions with Quickly in the game and have done his entire career. And if he can carry that over into a larger role in Toronto, then we're talking about just a really, really good player.
If you look at what they've been doing with Dennis Schroeder and how much they've been relying on him, I think Quickly's going to get a lot of opportunity with the ball in his hands. It at least gives him some clarity as, hey, this is our direction.
Yeah, it's interesting with Quickly. I like Quickly. I'm not as high on him as everybody else. I think he's going to put up good numbers in Toronto. I think he's going to put up numbers where this kid's a star, and then everybody's going to start comparing him to Tyrese Maxey, which I don't think he's close to, except they're both terrible on the defensive end. So maybe that's the comparison. But I think the thing for me with Quickly is he doesn't create enough, which is what Seth was alluding to with him with the Knicks. Besides the 20-game stretch, I think last season where he started and he did really well, he constantly got to go up against the second team on a more regular basis than normal. So now it's a little different with him being the guy. I think him pairing with Scotty Barnes is actually going to be really good. I think that's going to be a lot of fun with that stuff. When I look at it from the Toronto side, like on the court, I understand it makes sense. Great stuff. Good trade. When I look at it off the larger picture, the organization or whatnot, I think this was a mistake. And not in trading for him. I just think they held on to OG Anunoby way too long. I think they could have gotten more for him last season. I think they could have gotten players and draft picks and first-round draft picks that, were not the, kind of first-round extended draft picks, not even necessarily late lottery, but I think they could have gotten a bevy of picks for him in the way teams were bidding for him and overbidding for him.
Well, we all heard 4 first last year.
Well, that's what they wanted.
Yeah.
That's what they wanted.
Right.
I think they had offers for 3 firsts, which is still pretty damn good for a dude like OG Anunoby. But I think they kind of overplayed their card here a little bit. And I know Toronto fans are going to be up in arms, and we got our guy, and we got the Maple Jordan and all that stuff. But I think
that's actually my least favorite part of the trade for them is like if RJ being Canadian played any part in them wanting to do that.
No, for sure. I was just,
Seth's
just not letting me rift. Thanks. Maybe he's just jealous because I'm still in Hawaii. The lovely weather today. But the thing is, for me, when you look at it in terms of how the organization needs to build and whatnot, this team and this organization would have been better off making this move last year when they could have gotten more for OG. And I think, and for people who aren't looking at, or just looking at draft picks as players that you would pick in the draft, you're not looking at the fact of, we're talking about the Knicks being able to make a big move because they have a ton of other people's picks. You don't interact. I think that's the issue. And then the other side of it that I don't think people are really aware of is if this trade makes them a team that's at a play-in tournament team, they probably lose their pick this year because that goes to San Antonio because it's top 6% protected for the Jakob Poeltl trade from last season. So now it's almost a negative value in terms of picks and draft capital with all that stuff if you lose that pick. So if this thing is 7 or later, that's a Spurs pick. I just think that to me, it just wasn't for the past year, just not well planning stuff from Toronto. They did well for what they're going to do on the court now, but I don't think this is something that takes you to the point where I go, oh, Toronto's maybe not this year, but next year they're going to be great. It's like I still think they have a long way to go.
Well, I mean, the Fred VanVleet deal last year, or non-deal, I should say, they didn't move on from him. They lose him in free agency for nothing. Something is better than nothing. Well, if you already know what you're going to do,
we'll see how it plays out with Siakam.
I mean, I think that it's sort of from what time horizon are you looking at? And like from the standpoint of getting to this year with Anunoby as an expiring contract, I think they did well. And as you say, could they have done better last year? Probably. Could they have, before last season or for however long Anunoby has been sort of rumored as a top trade candidate? Yeah, probably. The question is, where were they in their evaluation of their team overall? Were they ready to flip things over? And I think the calculus is like, with the benefit of hindsight, knowing now that their roster is not. No, I'm not. This is not. I'm not trying to defend. No. I'm the complication of the sort of the multi-period game of knowing when it's time and when you can actually get permission to flip your roster over that way. Like we're sort of taking on faith 4 first-round picks, and people say,
well, no, nobody's saying they had 4 first-round picks. We know they had 3 first-round picks. 4 first-round picks was what they were saying they wanted,
right?
Which was, again, ridiculous. It's in the same way as we will talk about other teams later, overvaluing their guys in the market and all of those things. But like when we talk about it's pretty obvious where this team was heading last year before the trade deadline. We knew Fred VanVleet was gone, right? Like
we knew Nick Nurse was gone. We knew the coach was gone. Like
we knew the problems that were coming with this team. We knew the rumors of Pascal Siakam have gone beyond last season. Like, we're 2 years ago where he was unhappy, might move him or whatnot and things like that. Like to me, it's just like when I look at it and we're talking about the timeline and stuff like that, this team would have been better off breaking this whole thing down and building around Scotty Barnes, who I think is great. Yeah, Quickly's good. I think he's not going to be a great playoff player. I'm going to just put it out there now. Like the Knicks situation is different off the bench. Tibbs didn't really vibe with him. It's going to be him as a starter. He can't defend, so that's a playoff problem for you. And it's the same thing. Philly, we're going to find out about Philly and Maxey in that instance when he becomes the number 1 guy. But I think Maxey's just a better player.
I agree with that. For sure, I agree with that. This has got to be a precursor to a Siakam trade. I mean, you mentioned Mo. They can't lose. It would be a disaster to lose their pick this year. So they need to make sure that they don't make the play-in. Siakam is expiring. I mean, it's going to happen. I mean, this is we're on their way. So,
well, I don't know, because you can never.
I guess that's fair.
Last year we had them all pegged for sellers, and they went and got Jakob Poeltl. That's going to cost them probably a pick this year.
Another guy they probably need to move. This year.